Good morning and welcome to Uncle Connell's Queer History Corner and Coffee Clutch. Today we're going to talk about Don Solovich. He was born in 1887 in Serbia and immigrated to the U.S. about 1907, eventually moving to the Los Angeles area. In L.A., he found work as a female impersonator on stage and in silent movies. Eventually, he befriended the famed actor and director Charlie Chaplin and briefly worked for him, and then he began working for Chaplin's wife, Lita Chaplin, as well as her grandfather, as their chauffeur, butler, and secretary. In 1923, Don Solovich met Macon Irby when they were both peering into a department store window in downtown LA. Irby was a handsome 23-year-old sailor from Virginia, and after chatting a bit, the two men checked into a hotel in order to have sex. However, Irby then beat up Solovich, knocking out two of his teeth and then pulling out a gun to rob him of about $80. Solovich decided to press charges for assault and battery, and during the trial, Solovich came out as a female impersonator and gay man, proudly referring to himself as a fairy. Irby claimed that although he had willingly gone to the hotel with Solovich and they had gotten into the same bed, Irby then panicked when the small, effeminate Solovich allegedly tried to sexually assault the large and very butch Irby. Apparently, the jury did not believe Irby's gay panic defense and believed that Irby too was gay. Since no sex act had actually occurred between the men, so sodomy charges could not be brought up, and Irby was found guilty of 2 counts of robbery. Enter Sheldon Clark of Manti, Utah. A handsome and popular drama student at Manti High, after graduating in 1926, Clark had moved to Los Angeles himself to pursue a silent movie career, but failed to secure any work. A year later, Sheldon Clark and the fairy, Don Solovich, met and became friends, possibly lovers. Now, Sheldon's mother was a Voorhees from Salt Lake, and somehow Don Solovich, through his connections to Sheldon Clark, became well acquainted with the Salt Lake Voorhees family and entered into some shady business deals with them, mostly around the sheep business. In January 1928, Sheldon Clark, now 22, and Don Solovich, 41, decided to take Solovich's car from LA to visit the Clark family in Manti and then head to Salt Lake to do business with the Voorheeses. Solovich allegedly had several $1,000s on him for this business deal. On January 6, 1928, just south of Gunnison, Utah, Clark claimed that out of the blue, Don Solovich began to act like a degenerate and made some indecent proposals to the younger man when they had pulled over for a pit stop alongside the road. When Clark refused his advances, Solovich reportedly tried to hit him. Sheldon Clark then grabbed a hammer that was in the car and beat Solovich repeatedly in the face with it. Clark then drug him into a nearby gulch and struck him more with the hammer and then used a large rock. He then robbed Solovich of all of his money and took the car to Salt Lake, where he was almost immediately arrested. Solovich survived the attack for a while, and when a patrolman happened to drive by, he heard Solovich loudly moaning from the gulch. He had been beaten so severely that he could not be identified, but the cop found identifying papers in his clothing. He was taken to nearby Gunnison, Utah, but died on the way. When Clark was arrested, he was gleefully proud of killing the degenerate fairy and continued to arrogantly repeat his violent actions on several occasions to the media and finally in court. Of course, all we have is Sheldon Clark's side of what happened, and given Solovich's known history of being a female impersonator and openly a fairy, Of course, it was assumed indeed Solovich was the predator and initiated the aggression, to which Clark had merely responded in self-defense. Sheldon Clark was only found guilty of voluntary manslaughter and sentenced to 1 to 10 years in the Utah State Prison at Sugar House. He got out after only 3 years and returned to Burbank, California, where he lived the rest of his life. Thank you for watching this episode of Uncle Connell's Queer History Corner and Coffee Klatch. With coconut creamer, of course.